G'day everybody, it's Joe Sweeney here, and today I'm going to show you a work in progress. What I'm wanting to do is build out a very, very large and highly detailed city for a project which we're working on. It's a top secret project. Let's just say it involves the worst possible city in any fantasy setting you're going to get. The most evil people, the worst characters and so forth. So, and this city is to be highly reminiscent of the old Judges Guild products. For example, the beautiful, beautiful city-state of the Invincible Overlord. So I'm taking inspiration from there. Now, what I wanted to do is really speed up my mapping process going forward. So what I thought I'd do is I'd create some symbol sets. The first thing I did was created a grid which was snapped to 10 foot. And you can probably see the grid snaps here, 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 and here. And then I created a background template layer where I could lay out 100-foot square sections of the city. And that way I could take each of these square sections, turn them into a symbol, and just drop them on. But on top of that, I could also take individual pieces of these symbols, of these sections, create them just as individual symbols, and use those in a more flexible manner. So the work that I'm doing now is really quite important. All of this grid line work is actually sitting on the hex square grid layer, and to make sure that it sits underneath everything else, it's sitting on the grid sheet in this sheet here. It was rather simple to create. I basically just drew a box and then drew lines and some curves and so forth. So I can put a curved road in at any angle. I can do a square in the middle. I've got diagonal roads here if I wanted to connect them and so forth. So basically a little bit of time up front to plan my roads. Now let's fill in this city block. I'm actually going to be creating my symbols in a very special and rather unusual way, and it'll make sense as we go through these tutorials and as I build this out. And to some extent this is a little bit experimental, but I'm thinking it's going to work. So what we'll do is I have created a structure outline, my symbol set called structure outline. No surprises there. And I'm going to make sure that I've got this set to the symbols sheet as well. My walls are going to be 1 foot, and I'm going to use the color black. I'm just going to create a couple of different houses here. So I'm going to use the closed polygon tool. And I'll just draw in a house or a building of some sort. Now, this is a large road section, so I'm going to run along the road section for a bit. There we go. There's one outline of a building. Let's put another building in there. Let's make this one move to the side, bring it in like this, put a bit of an alleyway between those two buildings there. Excellent. And on the other side of the road, we'll add another outline of a building. Actually, I might make this one have a strange little sort of dipped alleyway in there, like it's a plaza of some sort. We won't make this one go all the way the road. We'll have a little element there, and we'll bring it all the way along the bottom. There we go. So we now have 3 interlocking buildings, some sort of little alleyway there. Those are just the outlines. Now, I'm going to want to take those outlines and put a nice white floor on them. In fact, the floor is going to be Varicolor, which is a way of creating a symbol which will change color when we finally have these. But for now, we're going to create it as white. Now, the quickest way of creating a floor for all of these buildings here is just simply to copy the outlines, somewhere nice and easy to get them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the change properties tool here, mark them all, go do it. I'm going to change this to being a color style, so structure's color, that's the floor underneath it. I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to change the sheet. Now this is very important. I'm changing the sheet to floors. Now the reason for that is that that will then force this white color to go all the way down to the bottom of what I'm working on. And the line, I'm going to change that to 0, and that will turn it from being an outline to being a fill. When we go that, bingo, we're done. And then all we have to do is copy them up. Now, the reason I can't copy them is I've actually frozen that layer there, the structures layer. So I'm just going to unfreeze that, and this one. And I'll just drop them in there. And then when I click, we now have a nice quick filled in section. I'm going to quickly refreeze that color layer, and now I'm going to work on my internal structures. See this layer here, sorry, right here. Let's freeze that line there. Freezing is really useful. So if you freeze a layer, that means that you can't work with it anymore. You can actually create things on it by what I just did then, for example, changing the properties. But other than that, it's really locked in place. And that's really useful. So for these particular symbols, you notice that I've made a differentiation between the outline of the symbol, that's the outer wall, and the internals, the inner walls. I'm just going to now make sure that we've got that on symbols, correct. Internals, correct. Width, 1, that will do. Let's put some internal walls. Bear in mind that's the road running through the city, so we will create maybe a wall from here and here. Bear in mind each of these grids is 10 foot, so that's a 5-foot gap in there. And let's put a nice wall down the back and give them some nice privacy, maybe a couple of little bedrooms or something which the person has. There we go. So there's one internal. Don't worry, there's going to be more. It's going to look a lot better than this when we're done. There we go. That's another little house. Oops. Just undo that. There we go. So there's another set of internals. I think what we'll do is we'll have this one as being, maybe that's a shop front or an inn, and then in behind it here we might have some kitchens and work areas and whatnot. Maybe a big storage room in the back. This could be another part of the area, possibly even a building right up close. So maybe we'll just as you can see, I'm just having a bit of fun. So there we go. Now, here's the good news. I created already a bunch of cutting symbols for the doors. So I've got a closed door, I've got an open 5-foot door, and so forth. I'm just going to use an open door to show the doors out in the street. And if I drop these in, you can see, and I'll just zoom in there for you, you can see that they automatically cut the line area. We'll do the same here, but I'm going to give this one a double door. There we go. Not a Dumbledore, but a double door. Ah, Harry Potter reference. Great. I'm going to add, actually I might do a closed 10-foot door for this one. There we go. And I'll do the same there. There we go. We can also put in some windows. So I might whack in a nice little window on this side, window here, window here. Bear in mind, this city doesn't have too many windows because it is a city full of thieves, rogues, and blackguards. So we wouldn't go over the top with windows. Now we need some internal doors. So again, I just go back to the doors. I might put a door in here. I'll put a door in here. We'll put the doors in here and here. That could be a cupboard or something. And some more doors. Let's just zoom out a bit. Oh, we'll put a door in here as well, and a door in here. Excellent. So there you go. Now we've got our lovely little street. So I'm going to save the map now. It's always a good idea to save. So that's the first part. I have actually been very, very busy, and if you look here, I have drawn just close to 100 of these city blocks. So they're all looking absolutely spiffing and spot on. I'm going to zoom in again just to this piece that we're working on, and we'll do a bit of an experiment next. So what I'm going to do is just save this, and the experiment is to see, can I turn this into a symbol? And more importantly, when I drop this symbol onto a new map later on, I want the symbol to behave in a very specific way, rather than just being a symbol on a single layer and that's it, which means I can't turn off and on the inside walls and the outside walls. I want it to be put down in what we call an exploded fashion, meaning that the symbol will actually break itself up into its constituent components, and the inner walls will go onto an inner layer and the outer walls will go onto the outer layer, and that way I can switch them on and off. So watch this. I'm going to go back to the outline and I'm going to turn off, sorry, I'm going to hide the internal walls. That's hiding there. Now, if I was to drop this on a map, I could create a player guide to the map, which doesn't have all the internal stuff, or it has just hints at how to get into places. And that would be great. And because we've got that Vericolor white background that we can change the color of, I could put this onto a lovely parchment color. I could fade that internal sheet with a sheet style, and you'd actually get this sort of watercolor effect. And that would be all automated. And then when I want to produce the GM map, I would then just go and turn on the internals, load in a different style sheet, harsher, stronger internal fills, maybe not on a parchment, maybe on something that looks more like a canvas or a heavy-duty paper, and we would have quite a different looking map with all the internal stuff. That is one of the beauties of Campaign Cartographer layers. You can turn things off and on, and the sheets, you can turn effects on and off and swap them between maps. So we can use the same map or the same mapping process to generate very different maps. So that's where we're heading with this. What I'd like to do now is test that theory. In order to do that, I need to create a bit of a mapping, what we call a symbol set. So the first thing that we need to do is turn this into a symbol. Now, I will take a copy of it, and it's a really good practice when you're creating symbol sets that you take copies rather than working off your original, because, oops, we've done something a little bit silly there. When I copied this, I forgot I needed to copy all of the layers, and the reason I wasn't copying all of them is I had the color, the internal fills layer, frozen. So let me just do that again. There we go. We'll copy this. Do it. We'll copy it over here. Great. So what I'm now going to do is turn this block into a symbol. And the way that you do that is you can go Symbol, Define Symbol. And I'm going to mark the entire area that I want to define a symbol. And you can see it all turns red. And then I'm going to go Do It. This control panel tells us how it's going to be put down on the map. You can put a bounding box around it. We don't want that. It's really important to give it a name. So the prefix and then the name. And I'm going to call this, this is really commercial block. So we'll call it commercial. And we'll call it 01. You know, why not? It's just a block. I'm going to have it so that when we place these down, it places the box exactly in the middle. You can make it so that it'll align to the bottom line along here or the top line and so forth. But for us, for this one, it's going to align along the center. We click on OK. Now, it disappears. That's why. That is exactly why you want to work off your copies, not your originals. So I've still got this house if I'm not happy with that. And you might say, well, where's that gone? Well, it's actually now, if I just refresh this, it's actually now, you can see here, I've done a few other experiments, but you can see that this block is now here. I'm going to save this, and what I'm going to do now is close down the application, and I'm going to start it up again. Now the reason I'm doing that is there's a weird little thing that when you create a very complex symbol, it doesn't always show up. At least these ones aren't always showing up immediately. And just starting the application and coming back in gets past that. So now what we're going to do is take that symbol and just that one, and we're going to turn it into a symbol set catalog for use. So we do this by going Symbol Manager. We're going to need to include all of the doors in our symbol set, and the reason for that is they will be referenced in any new map that we create. And there's the new symbol that we created down there. So those are the ones that we're going to be working with. But before I do that, I'm going to select the commercial district and I'm going to change some of the options. And this is where the magic, I'm hoping the magic will happen. All that we'll be doing is clicking Explode Symbols on Placement. Now when I click OK, and I mark the rest of these for exporting, and I'll just make sure I've got all the doors and the windows and so forth, as well as this. Bear in mind that these are part of this symbol set here, so we want them exported as well. And what we'll do is we'll go Save the catalog. Now it's only going to save the ones that I've got selected. So I'm going to call this city symbols symbol set 2. And we can see that here. And then I'm going to click on save. 7 symbols saved in the catalog. So it's saved all our stuff. Right, let's go and create a new map. New map. I won't bother saving it. I'm going to just make a cities. There we go. I will use a predefined template for this one, but I'll use a fairly small one. There we go. We'll use this one. Now, if I load in that new catalog that I've just created, and to do that, I am going to need to go to my work drive, and I'm going to need to go into my Dropbox. Always put things in a backup drive. Always do your work in a backup drive. Although Dropbox is not my favorite, it's 10 times cheaper than the product which is my favorite, which is SugarSync. But also, when you're working with complex maps, do turn off the synchronization of your Dropbox and then turn it on as soon as you're finished working on the maps. It just makes things a bit faster and a bit easier. So we're going to go into mapping, and we're going to go into my city symbols. Now there's my city symbols catalog. So if I put this in, you'll actually see now I've got the doors as well as this. Now let's pop this onto a map. There we go. We can just drop it straight in there, and we might maybe use the arrow keys to rotate it. We might put another one right next to it. I'm just going to zoom in a bit even further. There we go. Boink. So not the best placement, but I could have used snap if I was being a bit smarter. So it's dropped in, but unlike a regular, unlike what you normally see with symbols, you can now see that these have been broken up. I can select just parts of them. So that's really useful. And if all has gone well, we should have the ability to turn off different layers. So there's the layer which I put in. So I'm going to hide the internals. And they all disappear. So great, now I can do my GM map and my player map with these intelligent symbols that explode and put themselves down onto multiple layers. So I know this is going to work. Anyway, I'm going to continue working through this, and over time I hope to get my city all ready. I hope this has been helpful and instructive. It's quite an advanced discussion, and I know that I've assumed a lot of prior knowledge here. And I will keep making little videos and let you know how we go with this project. And I'm going to actually create little videos all the way through to the final end of it, to when we actually produce the product. Cheerio.